So in this segment, we're going to be looking at a clip from Politics Joe of Vivek Cooper kind of lighting up Suella Braverman. My only issue with this clip is that, as always, Cooper doesn't really offer any real solutions, nothing that will majorly solve the issues. But I think they will do a better job than the Conservatives are with stopping the channel crossings and doing it in the proper way. But there's not a lot of faith there. Anyways, let's go to the clip before I get depressed.
Britain deserves better than this chaos. Britain is better than this.
I don't think we are better than this, given our history with refugees and other things. So I'm going to go out and say we're not better.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A record 45,000 people crossed the Channel on dangerous small boats last year, up from just 280 4 years ago. In that short time, the government has allowed criminal gangs to take hold along the Channel and along our border. At the same time, convictions of people smugglers have halved. Home Office asylum decisions have collapsed, down 40%. The backlog and costly, inappropriate hotel use has soared. Removals of unsuccessful asylum seekers are down 80% on the last Labour government, and legal family reunion visas for refugees are down 40%. This is deeply damaging chaos.
So I think part of this would be fueled by us, because of Brexit, us leaving the Dublin III agreement. So you can't kind of send back people who back to a country safe, their safe point of entry. Safe country. So France, for example, if they come from France. So that'd be one of the first problems that would be here. Another problem would be the fact that the Home Office probably has gutted out a lot of their staff, given that the Tories have done massive budget cuts. So what that means is if there's less staff to deal with the claims, then it creates more and more backlogs, even if the number's the same. The other problem is the withdrawal of Afghanistan and the fact that we promised so many people refugee status and didn't give them refugee status. So now some of those people are crossing the Channel. We'll talk about the numbers of approvals and things like that later on, but the number has increased because I think the withdrawal of Afghanistan was such a disaster. And the UK made promises it just didn't keep. So it's multiple different things, but I think the UK's put ourselves in a really weak position to deal with kind of asylum seeker crisis, I guess you could call it. And what's happening now, because the UK doesn't have any safe points of entry, and unless you're a refugee from, I think it's Ukraine, Syria, and a third country, I can't remember which one the third one is, you have to be physically in the UK to claim asylum. And so what that means is the people are crossing the Channel in order to claim asylum here because there's no other way for them to do so. If we set up a processing centre in France, for example, people would go there and put their claims in, and if they did cross the Channel, after a failed claim, you can deport them pretty easily because they would have come from France. And obviously you can process their claim really quickly because it's already been rejected, for example. So it wouldn't be the hardest thing in the world to do. Another reason why people are coming here is because France, it takes about 1.5 years for France to deal with asylum claims because the sheer number of it, versus the UK, which is around 6 months. So maybe that's another area we can do an agreement with the French to help them with asylum claims. I don't know.
And there is no point in ministers trying to blame anyone else for it. They have been in power for 13 years. The asylum system is broken, and they broke it. We need serious action to stop dangerous boat crossings which are putting lives at risk and undermining border security. And that is why Labour has put forward plans for a cross-border police unit for fast-track decisions and returns to clear the backlog and end hotel use, and a new agreement with France and other countries. But instead, today's...
I don't know if France would agree to it. Labour can come up with all the plans they want, but if France says no, then, it's a no from, Macron or whoever replaces Macron after Macron, loses an election or retires.
Statement is Groundhog Day.
Yep.
The Home Secretary has said anyone who arrives illegally will be deemed inadmissible and either returned to the country they arrived from or a safe third country. Only that wasn't this Home Secretary, it was the last one. And that wasn't this bill, it was the last one.
And that's the point. You can't stop it via legislation in this respect. You can't try and deter people from coming here by force. It's not working. What you need to do is the processing centre in France.
Passed only a year ago, which did not work. And as part of last year's bill, the Home Office considered 18,000 people as inadmissible for the asylum system because they had travelled through safe third countries, but because they had no return agreements in place, just 21 of them were returned. That is 0.1%.
So the Home Office set up the rules of if you come through a safe third country, you can't claim asylum here, which I think under UN laws, I don't know if that would even be legal. But also because we have no return agreements with France, as she said, we can't send anyone back. It's just 21 people. So, outside the Dublin 3 agreement, we are struggling here. And, why would France give us an agreement on this, given the situation? I don't know. It wouldn't make sense for them to do it unless we paid up some serious cash to help them.
Other 99.9% just carried on, often in hotels, at an extra cost of £500 million. And it didn't deter anyone. Even more boats arrived. So what is different this time? They still don't have any return agreements in place. The Home Secretary herself has admitted Rwanda is failing, and even if it gets going, it will only take a few hundred people. So what will happen to the other 99% of people under this bill? Now, she says she's going to detain them all, maybe for 28 days. She could tell us how many detention centres they will need and how much that will cost. But even if
it'll cost a boatload of money, especially because you can imagine certain companies, private companies, will get the contracts and they will be milking it. They'll be milking the government for all that they can, and it will be another disaster situation like the quarantine hotels.
she does, what will happen when people leave 28-day detention? Will she make people destitute, so they just wander the streets in total chaos? Torture victims, Afghan interpreters, families with children? Or will she put them into indefinite taxpayer-funded accommodation? Never returned anywhere because they don't have the agreements with Europe in place, neither returned nor given sanctuary, never having their case resolved. Just forever in asylum accommodation and hotels. She may not call it the asylum system, but thousands more people are still going to be in it, nevertheless. And what does it mean for the promises that we made to the Afghan interpreters who served our country?
This is where it gets dark, in my opinion.
But who were too late to make the last flight out of Kabul as the tyranny was closing in on them.
Shameful.
The government told them to flee and find another way here, and they told us to tell people that as well. But the resettlement scheme isn't helping them, and if they arrive in this country, finally, this afternoon, perhaps by travelling through Ireland to get here, they will only ever be illegal in the eyes of the government who relied on the sacrifices they made for us.
It's mad that they're coming from Ireland. How they're getting to Ireland, I don't know. But, they can't claim asylum via the embassies the UK has abroad. And so the UK set up a system where we've told Afghan refugees, just get here and you'll get your asylum claim heard. And then we've just made it ridiculously difficult and dangerous to get here. That is shameless. And, for the UK, in any other foreign military operations, when we promise people refugee status after a conflict is over, or even during that conflict, will they believe us? I do not think they will. And that's probably the most shameful aspect of this refugee policy. You can talk about the Ukrainian refugees and how badly they've been treated by Britain. That's nothing compared to what they've done to the refugees from Afghanistan. Nothing. The way they've been treated is so much worse.
So if the government was serious, it would be working internationally to get a proper new agreement in place with France and Europe, including return agreements, and properly controlled and managed legal routes such as family reunion and reform of resettlement. Instead, this bill makes this harder, unilaterally choosing to decide no asylum cases at all, but expecting every other country to carry on. And they would work with Labour on our plan for a major new cross-border police unit to go after the criminal gangs. But instead, the Deputy Chair of the Conservative Party said yesterday we shouldn't go after the gangs because, well, they've existed for thousands of years. That is the disgraceful Tory attitude that's let the gangs off the hook and letting the gangs take hold. And one smuggler told Sky News yesterday that 3/4 of the smugglers live in Britain, yet barely any of them are being prosecuted, and they still haven't found the hundreds of children missing from asylum hotels who've been picked up by criminal gangs.
Well, that's pretty mad. That if you think about it, the majority of the smugglers live in the UK, haven't been prosecuted. That's something we could deal with. We can't blame France for that, or a lack of cross-border cooperation, etc. The children are still missing. That's something that was a big scandal a couple of weeks ago. No one's really talking about it, but there are children who are just being, I think, almost abducted from hotels and other kind of centres where they are, and the police are struggling to find them. I guess the lack of documentation wouldn't help, and I guarantee the smugglers have said to them, like, look, if you leave here, you will get arrested and face deportation or some nonsense like that. That's probably what they've been told, in order to deter the kids from trying to leave or trying to get help. And this is a situation where you've hollowed out the police force, so it's much more difficult for them to actually find the kids as well. This is Tory Britain. At the end of the day, austerity, all of these things, this is what happens when you break a country. You take away its institutions and make it so ineffective it can't do the basics. This is what they've done to this country.
They could be setting out a serious plan today, and we would work with them on it, and so would everyone across the country. Instead, it's just more chaos. They say no ifs, no buts, but all of us know they're going to spend the whole of the next year iffing and butting and looking for someone else to blame when it all goes wrong. Enough is enough. We can't afford any more of this slogans and not solutions, just government by gimmick, ramping up the rhetoric on refugees but picking fights simply to have someone else to blame when things go wrong. This bill isn't a solution. It is a con that risks making the chaos worse. Britain deserves better than this chaos. Britain is better than this.
Pretty good speech, but again, some of the points she's made, the percentages, the statistics she's come out with, outstanding stuff here. But I think if Labour don't offer solutions, all of that stuff will fall on deaf ears, because people are going to ask you, what are you going to do about it? And you're going to be told, oh yeah, nothing, bro. Oh, we'll do this minor thing, and you'll get picked apart for it. Because you got to remember, Labour face way more criticism than the Tories ever do. So whenever Labour come out with a policy, they will face criticism on it. But if they say we'll set up a processing centre in France, yes, they can try and criticise it, but we can say, look, we want to end the channel crossings. This is the best way to do it. But, they know better than me, apparently. And now we go over to hear what Trash wants to say.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the Right Honourable Lady for her remarks, but forgive me, after 5 minutes of hysteria, histrionics and criticism, I'm still not clear. I've just got no idea what Labour's plan is.
And she can be smug and annoying, but she's not 100% wrong there. Cooper talked about cross-community, cross-border cooperation with France, creating a police force and all of those kind of things. She's talked about, dealing with the smugglers in the UK, maybe setting up, I think, a task force to help them deal with it. But I don't think that's going to fully solve everything, but it's better than we have now. It's better than what we have now. So the question is, do you accept a Labour Party that aren't going to do enough to solve problems, but are going to help a bit, or are you going to accept a Tory party that'll do absolutely nothing to resolve problems, throw more red meat at racists and other people to not solve issues, and also fundamentally they will not resolve the issues that face this country, and they have caused a lot of the issues that we are facing. If we cut over to Lizzie Dearden, who works for The Independent, she says, Afghans are now the largest group of channel migrants, or I should say asylum seekers really. Over 90% claim asylum, and most succeed when decisions are made. Small boat crossings weren't a crime until June of 2022. There is no asylum visa, and of course claiming asylum is not a crime. And they've got a lot of article on it, so I'll link this tweet in the description as I link all my sources. And you've got the asylum applications versus backlog. So this is from the Free Movement Group, and what you can see here is the backlog has gone up steadily since 2010, and the arrivals have stayed fairly similar. So what that tells you is that the numbers haven't really gone up since 2021, but the problem is that the backlog has gone up, and that's because the Home Office has cut the amount of staff they have. So fundamentally, they can't deal with the issues at hand. When you cut the amount of staff that you have to deal with asylum claims, what that means is the backlog grows naturally. Same thing with the courts. Even if we deal with less court cases, if there aren't enough staff and judges to process claims, you build a backlog. Same thing with passports as well. You got people waiting months, almost near a year, some people, for a passport, to get their passport renewed or their application to be done properly and get their passport. when it shouldn't be like that. But the Home Office are absolutely broken. They have no idea what they're doing, and they've cut so much that they can't resolve the issues that we're facing. It's pretty shameful for what's her name, Braverman, to come out with basically a worse, more aggressive version of the bill I think Patel had passed, which resolved nothing. By the way, when you look at the number of rifles, it's still rising. It's tragic that we're stuck with these morons in charge who have no solutions and should blame other people. Do I want to see Labour do better? Absolutely, absolutely. But this lot have to go. These Tories have to go. They're causing absolute misery. People are dying in the English Channel. It's not some boring red meat or political thing here. People are dying in the Channel. It looks like it's the case that it's mostly, right now, the largest group of people that are crossing the Channel are refugees from Afghanistan, especially because I think most of them were told that they would be able to get their asylum claims heard here and most likely passed. I don't know what number of them are translators and other people who worked with the British military, but it's absolutely shameful. They're the group we should be helping the most here. The ones that we asked to put it on the line in the battle against the Taliban, and we've abandoned them. It's just absolutely tragic. Absolutely tragic. I don't have much more to say apart from, Cooper needs to offer better solutions, but Braverman needs to get the hell out. She needs to be voted out, absolutely. A joke. And I've heard that she's struggled to find a safe seat for the next election, thanks to the Tories gerrymandering. And I say good. Perfect. I hope she's out. I hope she doesn't get another seat, honestly. The lot of them. Get her gone, get this idiot gone, get the rest of them gone. But I seriously want Labour to offer better solutions than what they're offering. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel on Patreon if you can. The battle of half measures versus no measures rages on. And I'll see you in the next one.